The sacred salmon. Neil, hurry, his grandmother called. We're going to miss the ceremony. I'm coming, Neil called back. He had tried telling his grandmother that he had lots of homework to do, but then she mentioned that the ceremony included a feast. Neil's grandmother had great powers of persuasion, especially since she knew Neil was a pushover when it came to food. Besides, he knew that her heritage was Native American and really liked this tradition stuff. They drove to Riverside Park, near their home in Oregon. The riverbank was already crowded with people. Many were wearing traditional Native American clothing with beads and feathers, and his jeans and t-shirt. Neil was like a kid sitting at the grown-ups table. Then an old woman materialized out of the crowd, dressed in beaded clothing and leaning on a cane. She used her cane to direct her helpers. Some were covering long tables and white tablecloths, and others set their tables with vases of flowers. We call her Joy, Neil's grandmother whispered. The ceremony you will see today is thousands of years old, but Joy started this celebration 15 years ago. It honors the salmon who give to us in life and in death. Neil looked unsure, even dubious, so his grandmother explained. We catch and eat salmon, right? He nodded. Well, after swimming upstream to lay their eggs, the female salmon heads back to the ocean. On the way, she dies. She is food for birds, animals, and other fish. The nourishment from the salmon feeds more living things, which is how she gives to us in death. The salmon teach us to give back. Now Joy was chanting and waving, burning grasses over a long table with salmon on it. Then helpers utilized special knives to cut the salmon into small slices. They threaded each slice into a sharpened red wood stake and pushed the other end of the stake into a fire. The fire quickly cooked the salmon. Then Joy sliced off bits of salmon and gave one to everyone, even Neil. Save the skin and bones from the salmon, his grandmother told him. Neil was going to ask why, but Joy soon collected the skin and bones from everyone. 4 young men took her gift and dove into the river. They left the skin and bones on the river bottom. On the riverbank, women in native clothing and beads danced and chanted. We bless the female salmon, Joy said, for her long, dangerous journey up the river to spawn, still nurturing as she dies. Since we started holding this ceremony again, Neil's grandmother whispered, the number of salmon in the river has increased. We have more optimism for the future of the salmon now, and hope for the future of our people. Neil could tell that his grandmother thought it was miraculous. Neil knew she meant the Hockamal people who had lived in Oregon for centuries. They were her ancestors and his. As they found cheers for the feast, Neil said, You know, Joy is kind of old. Who will organize this ceremony when she is gone? Joy wants this ceremony to continue, his grandmother answered, so she is always looking for helpers. Maybe you can be one, if you really want to. Neil thought for a second. Then he smiled and told her, I really want to. Backyard. The tree's sturdy branches had survived years of summer thunderstorms and winter winds without breaking. What does hardy mean in the excerpt above? A, giant, B, old, C, strong, or D, thick? Number 12. Which of the following solves the problem of building a treehouse? F. Mr. Gupta offers to help Mr. Hamilton. G. The Guptas moved in next door to the Hamiltons. H. Mr. Gupta says that he will be doing house repairs. Or I. Mr. Hamilton says that he is happy that the Guptas have moved in. Number 13. Read this excerpt from the passage. Mrs. Gupta salvaged some sturdy pieces of wood before throwing away the rest, and she used the planks and boards to build the walls and floors of the treehouse. What does salvage mean in the excerpt above? A. Save to use again. B. Cut in smaller pieces. C. Used to solve a problem. Or D. Replaced in stronger pieces. Number 14. What happens after the families agree to build the treehouse, but before they set to work? F. They build the floor of the treehouse. G. The Hamiltons learn about construction. H. The Guptas finish working on their own house. Or I. They get materials they need for the treehouse. 15. Read the excerpt from the passage. Mrs. Gupta showed Mr. Hamilton how to use extra planks of wood to reinforce the floor. This way, she explained, you can be sure the floor won't break when you walk on it. What does reinforce mean in the excerpt above? A. Build. B. Decorate. C. Finish. Or D. Strengthen. 16. How are Mr. Gupta and Mr. Hamilton similar? F. They have built tree houses before. G. They are doing construction on their homes. H. They want to work together to build a tree house. Or I. They are interested in becoming professional contractors. 17. Read this excerpt from the passage. Marcy and Emma insisted on putting in 2 windows so that they could enjoy seeing the tree's foliage throughout the year. The leaves were thick and green now, but in the fall they would become a rich blend of reds, oranges, and yellows. Which word in the excerpt helps the reader understand what foliage means? A. Blend. B. Fall. C. Leaves. Or D. Windows. Number 18. How are the steps to building the treehouse important to the story's plot? F. They show what to do to build your own treehouse. G. They support the story's central idea of working together. H. They support the first and last events that occur in the story. Or I. They show why Emma, Marcy, and Zach have so many friends. 19. Read this excerpt from the passage. Zach and Marcy were very hospitable. They invited friends to visit the treehouse, and children in the neighborhood knew the Hamiltons' maple tree as a friendly place to gather. What does hospitable mean in the excerpt above? A. Likeable. B. Lonely. C. Selfish. Or D. Welcoming. 20. Why does the story skip ahead a few months at the end? F. To show what the neighbors want to accomplish next. G. To show the effect the treehouse has on the neighbors. H. To show why the neighbors decided to build the treehouse. Or I. To show the different ways that the neighbors use the treehouse. And 21. Compare the plot in the How to Become an Astronaut and A Treehouse for Everyone. What problem did the characters in each passage face? How do they solve the problems? Include accurate and explicit text evidence from both passages that shows how the sequences of events unfolds.